Today we are going to discuss the topic of disseminated intravascular coagulation in pregnancy. In fact, this whole presentation was made from evidence-based texts for obstetric and gynecology. It's very authentic book. First of all, let us definition of DIC. What is DIC? DIC is defined as inappropriate activation of clotting cascade leading to widespread coagulation, increased fibrinolysis, and organ damage. Okay, so the basic theme is that there is inappropriate activation of clotting system. We don't need it to be activated, and that results in coagulation throughout the body and increased fibrinolysis, and also affected the different organs are also affected. Okay, and there are basically three main areas which can be explained in the etiology of DIC. Okay, the first thing is that there is injury to the endothelium. Vascular endothelial layer is injured. Second thing is that there is release of thrombogenic tissue factor, and the third thing is that there is production of procoagulant phospholipids. Okay, so why injury to the vascular endothelium occur? It occurs in preeclampsia, hypovolemic shock, septicemia, cold injury, etc. like that. And release of thrombogenic factor occurs in cases like placental abruption, amniotic fluid embolism, and prolonged intrauterine fetal death. And in what cases we have production of procoagulant phospholipids, that is in case of the incompatible blood transfusion and in case of the septicemia. Now, what are the variations in severity of DIC? There are different variations in severity of DIC. DIC, in fact, represents a cascade of events which can vary in severity and ranges from completely compensated state with only laboratory evidence of increased coagulation and fibrinolytic factor turnover through the massive and controlled hemorrhage with a very low concentration of plasma fibrinogen, raised fibrinogen degradation product, and thrombocytopenia. Now, what causes end organ damage? End organ damage is basically caused by, first of all, hypotension. Secondly, fibrin platelets clump deposition in the small vessels and persistent endothelial damage leading to increased vascular permeability. Now, this figure is very important. It explains the evolution of events associated with DIC. So, what happens? The underlying conditions act as trigger, which causes local activation of coagulation mechanism, and patient can recover from it. But on the other hand, sometimes it happens that there is widespread intravascular coagulation, and as a result of widespread intravascular coagulation, sometimes there is consumption of the clotting factors and platelets, which leads to continued bleeding, and sometimes there is fibrin deposition. Okay, that fibrins may result in fibrin platelets clumps causing organ damage, or the fibrin deposition can result in fibrinolysis and fibrin degradation product, and that results in increased and continued bleeding. So we have organ failure in DIC, we have continued bleeding in DIC. Now, what are the most susceptible organs? Among the most susceptible organs, we have first of all kidneys, which when the kidneys are affected, it results in acute tubular necrosis, glomerular damage. Secondly, the lungs are affected, that causes pulmonary edema, adult respiratory distress syndrome, systemic inflammatory response syndrome. Okay, central nervous system is affected, which causes infarcts and cerebral edema. Okay, so three main organs are affected: kidneys, lungs, and central nervous system. Now, the principle of management, first of all, we need to do proper maternal resuscitation, as all of you know. Secondly, we treat the cause. Thirdly, we causes replacement of the blood and clotting factors and intensive monitoring until resolution. Okay, so how we do resuscitation? By prompt and aggressive fluid replacement that will limit damage to endothelium and allow rapid clearance of the fibrin platelets clumps. First of all, any patient who is at risk of DIC, we need to have a full coagulation screening. Okay, and this includes first of all FTP or D-dimer and fibrinogen. Now, thrombin time is useful if fibrinogen testing cannot be done. Okay, so basically we have three tests: FTP, D-dimer, and fibrinogen. Thrombin time only when FTP cannot be done. Along with the full blood count, we do this full coagulation screen. And it's written that in DIC, all aspects of protein clotting study are deranged, like APTT and partial thromboplastin time and thrombin time, all are deranged in DIC. Further, it is written that in pregnancy, the normal range for fibrinogen is increased, with a lower limit of the normal being 4 gram per liter. In any woman with whom fibrinogen falls below 1 gram, a cryoprecipitate infusion, which is rich in fibrinogen, should be considered. Okay, for that, measurement of fibrin degradation product can be useful, and D-dimer that are more specific may be measured when other indices of coagulation are abnormal. Now, how to manage a case of DIC? The first thing is that we need to get senior hematological advice. Okay, that should be sought if DIC is suspected. The mainstay of management of massive hemorrhage is to stop further loss of blood and resuscitate with appropriate blood products. Now, it's written that in case of the mild DIC, that may be controlled by adequate transfusion with the stored blood and FFPs. Okay, but more FFPs will be required in severe cases. Now, what is the advantage of FFP? More FFPs will be required in severe cases, and FFP provides factor 5, factor 8, and other labile coagulation factors, and some antithrombin 3A and fibrinogen. And cryoprecipitate with a higher concentration of fibrinogen and platelets may also be needed. Now, it's written that after initial resuscitation, management will depend upon repeated checks of hemoglobin, platelets count, and coagulation status. Now, it's very important thing that we don't give the stored blood in this case, because remember that the stored blood contains thromboplastin and can exacerbate DIC once the 6 units have been given. And also remember that fibrinogen reference range in the pregnancy is more than 4 gram. So any woman with fibrinogen of less than 1 gram per liter requires cryoprecipitate if there is active bleeding. Okay, now the treatment of the cause is very important. DIC will not settle until the cause resolves. The urgency of the treatment will be determined by the severity of DIC and other factors such as maternal and fetal conditions. In general, following abruption and intrauterine fetal death, vaginal delivery should be the aim. Usually, this will be accomplished within 4 to 6 hours. If DIC becomes uncontrollable during this time, more rapid delivery will be needed. Although it is considered that the transfusion of replacement clotting factor may add fuel to the fire of DIC, it is recommended that replacement is aggressively pursued whilst delivery is being accomplished. And it's very important that after delivery, steps to avoid PPH should be instituted. Now, what is the post-delivery surveillance? The aims are to, first of all, ensure adequate blood and clotting factor replacement, prevent further bleeding, monitor renal function and urine output until resolution, be vigilant for the signs of impending lung involvement. Fortunately, most women make a rapid recovery following delivery. It is important to ensure that the patient and her partners have opportunity for full debriefing, which is very important. Thank you so much for your patience. This is all about DIC.